Okay, so some Hippie Tuesday. Hey, yeah, another video for my book, Meta-Dimensional. Um, this is a hippie, again, hippie topic, kinda. Maybe you like it. It's related to the theory. Uh, so, say you assume that experience is fundamental. Nothing produces it. It produces itself, or nothing produces it like the same. And also take the other axiom that there's something that's like to be something other than myself. In your case, there's something that is like to be other than yourself. So there are other experiential agents out there. Now, the fact of the matter is that you don't always get what you want. And as it turns out, it's the desires of other people that you have to compete with. Now, not all of them exist in the sense of if you play a video game and you see a person in that video game, they probably don't have, this is probably not something that is like to be that video game character NPC. So not all the things that you interact with are necessarily have there's something that's like to be them. They have an experience, and therefore they don't do anything other than obey the laws of nature, which don't change according to whims. They just don't. That's not what they do. But other sentient agents, experiential agents, or as I call them, metadimensionals, do make choices like you. That's the theory. That's some of the arguments of the theory. And if you make it, they make it. Now the question becomes, how is that possible? You see, if their experience is fundamental and your experience is fundamental, now how can they affect me? How can I affect you? When experience is fundamental, it becomes the case that the reality you perceive is your interpretation of some kind of a physical substrate. It's your interpretation. Like the semantic understanding of what there is your interpretation. It can differ from what the senses give you. For example, in the case of phantom limbs, people that lose a limb and still feel as if there's a limb, or hallucinations. So it's your interpretation that determines what is the reality you perceive. So how can your interpretation affect someone else's interpretation? They interpret reality, you interpret reality, and still their desires in their interpreted reality affects yours. And I'm describing it this way, but another way to think about it is every every experiential agent is basically a manifestation of a fundamental dimension, of a dimension of existence, of an independent instance of existence. So I'm independent from width. I'm independent of height. My experience doesn't. It's what is called in mathematics orthogonal. So if my experience is different from yours, the dimension that I am, this thing that exists that I am, is different from the thing that exists that is yours, then we are orthogonal, and therefore you cannot affect me. Your choices can't affect me. Well, I understand you're missing a lot of theory here, but the bottom line is that the only way this can work is if my dimension of experience is your dimension of experience. What does that mean? My sense of being this thing that it's like to be me, that this be, it's the same and exact same element as yours. My body, the universe that I perceive, gives me the impression of who I am, and yours the same. But when I'm not perceiving who I am, and when you're not perceiving who you are, or anything else, then we are the same element. There's nothing about, I'm not saying anything in the sense of, so this sounds hippie, but I'm not saying anything to the likes of, we are all love, or we are all like united by some kind of a semantic construct that we remember, or like that. It's not like that. It's not that hippie. But the fact is that this sense of being I have is the sense of being you have. It's the same being. And it's not just the same being, it is the same, it is this fact that makes it possible for you to, makes it necessary for me to interpret this physical substrate the same as you interpret it, in the sense of what's matter, what's empty space, what's white, what's red. I'm simplifying here, but this is the fact that we share this. This is the thing that makes it possible for us to share a semantic context, and to make it possible for us to affect each other, and to make it possible for your choices to undermine my choices. So this is, and together, if you take out the thing that separates us, you get something which I call the experiential scape, which is not oneness in the sense of togetherness. It is my sense of happiness, when I feel happiness, and when I know what happiness is, when you know what happiness is, we both experience the same experiential movement, the same semantics of that experiential movement. When I feel angry, it's the same anger that you feel when you feel anger. It's the same movement. It's just in a different context. Once in my context and once in your context. And this combination of all contexts, that's the experiential scape. But it's not like we are one. We still have the body. There is no nothing interesting to say about raw experience without a body that separates it. That's just boring. I mean, there's nothing. It's like bread on bread. So I'm not completely hippie, but it is what it is.